terms of the general levels of defence spending, a couple of weeks ago, Rishi Sunak said the election of Keir Starmer as Prime Minister would make the country less safe because Labour won't commit to matching your pledge to increase defence spending to 2.5% of the size of the economy. But that's only been the government's policy for a couple of weeks. So was Rishi Sunak a danger last month?
Well, I think we've been building up to the point last month at which we put a firm date on reaching 2.5%. I made a speech at Lancaster House in London in January saying it's a more dangerous world. I used the phrase, perhaps we've moved from a post-war to a pre-war
Yeah, and we discussed
era.
that here in the studio. But
and then we worked through, because these things can't happen through wishful thinking. You have to actually say how you're going to pay for it, how we will pay for them. The answer is we would reduce the size of the civil service back to where it was before COVID and use that money to help pay for the increase in defence spending.
Except it was Boris Johnson's policy in 2022. And a couple of weeks ago, Rishi Sunak accused Keir Starmer of being a danger to the nation for not committing to the same thing that just a few weeks ago you hadn't committed to.
So, look, we're getting closer to an election, aren't we? So you have to start.
So it's just electioneering.
So, no, well, let me explain. You have to start setting out your plans, and if you don't have a route to get there, and it's simple wishful thinking, Labour continue to say, no, we want to get there. People will, I think, quite rightly question whether that's likely to be the case. Why? Well, because Keir Starmer leads a party where dozens of their MPs voted against the nuclear deterrent that he now says is in favour of. Keir Starmer twice supported a leader who wanted to get us out of NATO.
But isn't this exactly the kind of thing, though, that some of our viewers just, it drives them round a twist? Because you're accusing Labour of being a danger for being exactly in the same position that you were in just a matter of weeks ago.
Well, the difference is, I think, we are now getting towards, and we've said there'll be an election in the second half of the year, haven't we?
So we're
getting towards the general election in the second half of the year. It's not unreasonable to expect political parties to set out their platform. If they're unable to, and it's a sort of wishful thinking, we'll get to 2.5%. Oh, but we won't, for example, slim the size of the civil service, as we've said, will do to pay for it. Then how are you going to pay for it? And those are reasonable questions for us and you as the media
but you want
to
to
be
get
asking.
to 3%.
Well, I've talked in the past about that, but the first thing to do is to get us to 2.5%. And I'll tell you why. We need to do this at a speed where we don't just suck in imports in defensive equipment from America and elsewhere. We build our own industrial base. And the path we've set to 2.5% allows us to build up our industry to be able to produce that defence equipment. There are about 400,000 people who work in that industry already, and I want to expand that in a way that makes sense.
I want to talk